For nearly a century, Utah has had a higher percentage of college-educated women than the rest of the nation. However, in the past decade, we have slipped behind. Yet today we need more, not less, educated women to make families, communities, and Utah as stable and strong as possible. Utah Women in Education Project researchers have conducted in-depth research around the state to discover why more young women in Utah are not graduating from college. Our research team has collected data to try and understand why young women in Utah are making the college decisions they are, like not going to college at all, maybe going 1 or 2 semesters and dropping out, or going long enough to earn college degrees.
There's a popular saying that it takes a village to raise a child, and that's really true. All of us have a responsibility to help show young people how important it is to attend college by sharing our experiences and sharing the joy that we've had in attending college.
It's all about conversation. We really need serious conversation with young people and not so young people about their future and what they do.
All of us have an obligation to one another to help young women understand their own value and how by going to college and finishing college, they can be a much more well-rounded person.
If you picture a completed puzzle being a young woman who graduates from college, we believe the pieces of the puzzle are those who influence them, like family, school employees, and other influential individuals.
We found in our research that Utah families, the parents, the siblings, the relatives, are incredibly influential in the decisions of young women to go to college. We interviewed 2 large Utah families, the Watkins and the Livingstones. Each of these families has a strong record of graduating daughters. We wanted to go into the home to find out what kind of positive influences that a family can do to help their daughters, want to go to college. And what they told us supported our findings.
My dad is a wonderful man. He always would help us stretch our minds and bring up issues in the world and ask us questions, and our dinner table was often filled with the news and good things like that to keep our minds thinking and expanding.
I've always noticed how much time he spends with us. Some fathers might be too busy, to spend time with their children, especially their young children.
If he doesn't know the answer, then he'll go look it up, and he makes sure that we know the answer and where to find it, so we know how to access that information.
Fixing wiring, my dad taught me all about voltmeters, and so we were in physics one day doing a little lab about electric circuits, and I was over here messing with the circuits and the voltmeters, and there were all these boys in my class who were like, "How did you know how to work that?" or "What does this mean?" And it was so great to know how to work a voltmeter because I was one of the only ones, so I could help everyone else.
It's okay for girls to know about math and science and to be smart. It's a myth that young women can't excel in math and physics and science.
I chose to study civil engineering, which is a field that's largely male-dominated. My influences were my dad. He has a civil engineering degree. That was really something that was influential, of course, in my decision, and probably gave me the confidence. Well, if my dad's a great physics person, my mom has always been good in chemistry and biology. My mom is a dietitian, and I am a dietitian as well, and she'd always clip out nutrition articles from the newspaper, which she still does, and so those were the things around, and I thought, that looks interesting, and so I would read them too, and eventually when I got to college, I decided that would be a fun thing to do after exploring a little bit.
Well, I always read to children, even when they were tiny babies, and reading out loud was always a ritual before bedtime.
She's helped all of us a lot to learn to love to read, because that's how we learn and how we gain knowledge. It's a great support in our education as young children and also as adults.
They're always teaching me things and helping me learn, and helping me know how to learn and how to find answers to questions.
We're a family that we don't fly away to exotic vacations. We pack everybody up in the van and hook up the tent trailer and we go to the national parks. And so that involves a fair amount of driving, time together in the van. And so Maureen would buy these books with logic puzzles in them, and the kids would spend hours working through these logic puzzles.
On our camping trips, we've learned a lot about places and history and things, but also just about how to take care of ourselves, how to do, outdoor cooking and hiking, backpacking, and that's been fun. Even just learning how to set up a tent. You would be shocked to know how many people have no idea how to set up a tent.
In our home, we've always tried to have an environment of open inquiry and open discussion. And I think it's important for young children to be able to have opinions, and so we've always tried to hear them out. Sometimes we'll have some fairly lively discussions in our home, and it's okay to have differences of opinion, but I think it's important in that maturation process for young people to know that they can stand up and articulate what they think is important to them.
There was not only that firm expectation that we would go to college, but I also appreciate that they provided a lot of confidence for us that we can do it, that we were smart and that we could go and work hard and that we would be able to graduate and be successful. And
That's just something you do, and that's something that you stick out, and it pays off when you do that.
When I think about all the women who I admire, grandmas, neighbors, teachers, the women who I admire most have college degrees. When I think of the kind of person I want to be, it's a person who has that college education, like these role models.
We've also wanted our daughters to marry and have families. That's important to us also. But we think they're better mothers with a college degree. Anymore, it's a rare woman that doesn't go to work at some point in her life. With a college education, it makes you much more marketable. A woman could be in a situation where she never has to work, but even in those situations, she might want to volunteer and contribute to society in some way that she wouldn't be able to otherwise. And a college education helps facilitate that greatly.
When you have a degree, you can look every other adult in the world in the eye, and you know that there's nothing they have done that you cannot do too.
When we were young children, my dad did his doctorate when we came down here to BYU. My mom, I remember her taking some university classes, and so we saw them in school and learning, and that I think was a great example for us.
I love school. I walk into a library and I think, man, there's so much to learn in here. It's so great.
And I think that rubbed off though too, that they did. They loved education, they loved learning. I think that you can't help but to be affected by that as a child when you're growing up in that sort of an environment. My parents were really good teachers of showing us how to do things or fix things.
Little red car.
Yeah, little red car. We'd all have turns. It was an MG midget.
$500.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was nasty.
Rusted in all the right places.
Yeah. And he completely refinished it, and so we'd all take turns sanding a certain part of the vehicle.
Everybody had a fender or a part of the vehicle.
Yeah. So it was so fun to drive when it was all done.
Well, I think a lot of things were more by example than by trying to talk kids into doing things. I think that lifelong learners really want to learn not just school learning. You can have a doctorate and you can tear a transmission apart.
One Christmas, I was probably, maybe like 9 or 10, and Fisher-Price had come out with this really cool portable microphone thing that you could program the dial of your radio into the same frequency as the microphone. So you could talk into the microphone and hear your voice come out over the radio. He took us on a tour of southern Utah and used the microphone to give us all the lowdown of the different areas we were in.
That's just a part of our lifestyle, is that we're going to go to school, we're going to, further our education. I think we just automatically knew.
We just all felt it was kind of expected. Once you graduate high school, you go on to college, because I think it just betters you as a person.
I think they were just as excited as I was to, get registered, get my housing, see who some of my roommates were going to be.
I had my first bank account with my own checks, and she taught me how to balance my checkbook.
And they talked to us extensively about this is what we make and this is what we spend, and what can we do together as a family to be better with our money.
It wasn't just mom and dad in the finances, it was all of us in the finances.
I remember mom and dad saying, we will either pay for your first year of college, But then I chose, they paid half for 2 years, half tuition at BYU. I was able to graduate in 4 years without any student loans, and that was huge for me.
I really think for young women now, don't underestimate yourself. You can do it. You can have the kids. You can go to school. You can have a husband and you can be successful.
Education has been more about life and application to me than either getting a job or anything else. My feeling is, boy, you better go after what you like. You better like what you go after. And if you do, life will be very good. Whether young women are going to marry, going to have children, or going to marry, not have children, or not going to marry, or whatever, the education prepares them for all of that.
Mothers, fathers, guardians, siblings, and relatives can play a critical role in preparing young women to go to college. Another very influential group for young women are school employees, teachers, guidance counselors, administrators, and others.
In my position as the superintendent of this new school district, I've tried to emphasize with all of our principals and all of our teachers that it is all of our jobs to encourage each individual student to aspire to post-secondary education. That begins with the teacher. It should continue with the guidance counselor. It should continue with the principal. It should continue with our district academic staff, and I should be a part of it too.
I believe it is our duty to encourage kids to go on to post-high school education. For some students, that's a year and a certificate. For some, it's 2 years. For some, it's 4 and beyond.
I am a first-generation college goer in my family, and I can tell you that it was a teacher and a guidance counselor that had the most impact upon me to make certain that I had confidence to take the most challenging courses offered at my school, but not just taking the most challenging courses, but helping you to prepare for college and letting you know that you can be whatever you want to be. Teachers are role models.
Obviously, the teacher has a huge influence on young people. I mean, the teacher is the one who day in and day out has that direct contact with students.
Teachers are influential in many, many ways. Most in ways they don't even recognize.
I'd say a third grade teacher of mine really influenced me to go to college. I remember third grade, we went on a trip to Holy Names College, California. But just being able to go to a college campus, see college students was really exciting to me, and made me want to think, hey, I want to be here someday.
I had a music teacher. She was such a great influence to me because she was very educated and she understood why you should go to college, and she was just a great motivation to me.
So I was lucky enough to have had some support, even outside of my parents, to have those 3 awesome teachers that really pushed me. My stats teacher in high school, she got the Utah Teacher of the Year at one point, and like one of our assignments was to literally sign up to take the ACT test. And if we couldn't afford it, to talk to her and she would help us figure something out.
Counselors have a unique role in that they have one-on-one time with students. Very little, I admit, because they have so many students to take care of. But the idea is that this is the moment when a counselor can say, you can do anything you want and go anywhere you want.
I believe that a strong guidance counselor is one of the best people you can have in your building. They do so much to work with individual students in looking at what their future is going to look like and helping them not just have a goal, but prepare to get to that goal.
I had a counselor. It was Mrs. Huntington. She was fantastic. I always went to her when I had questions. She helped me through application processes. They really helped me navigate those things that my parents just didn't know how to navigate, and really inspired me to do better and to be better.
It's the principal's responsibility to create an environment where every single employee has those high expectations for every single student.
But I hope our principals aren't sitting there in their office at a computer all day. You know, I hope they're out in classrooms, in the hallway, in the lunchroom, on the football field, and I hope in every one of those settings they're asking that question. Where are you going to college? And if the answer is I don't know, following that up with what can I do to help you think about that? That principal ought to be encouraging those conversations by the guidance counselors, by the teachers, by the PTA, by everybody in the school.
In addition to families and influential people in the schools, We also found there are others who have and can be critical influences to help young women aspire to, prepare for, and then attend and graduate from college.
Our research team also found out that young women who do graduate typically have other influential people in their lives that help them make these college decisions. And these people can be family friends, neighbors, church leaders and other church members, people that they work with, their employers, and other groups that they belong to in the community. And one of our interesting findings was that women who do have a significant other people in their lives to talk to are much more likely to attend college.
We have found that it truly takes a village or community to positively influence young women in Utah to get to and through college. Through more positive encouragement and assistance from family, school employees, and others, we can increase the number of young women in Utah who attend and graduate from college, so they will be prepared to contribute more effectively in their homes, communities, workplaces, and beyond. The most powerful influences on a young woman's college decision are the people around her. Let's reach out, let's step up, and let's make a difference in the lives of the girls and women of Utah.